let's see. Hi guys, I'm just waiting for YouTube as our morning routine, just waiting for YouTube to confirm. And then as soon as it's working, then I will bring both of us on the screen, myself and Amanda. I'm just waiting. Yeah, I can hear myself, I can see myself, and now we can say hi. And then Amanda is here with me again, which is awesome.
Hello.
And we're just having a little chat. If you guys hear anything in the background, is Charlie, my dog, and he's like tend to snore. It's a little
Oh,
French bulldog sometimes, but yeah, it's good.
so cute.
And yeah, we just had our little catch up just before we come live as usual, and it's just. I mean, I just want to say, express how much appreciation I have for these little moments, especially in the morning for us when we record this for you guys. It's just like it's a nice feeling of just being yourself, just sharing with someone that you really connect with as well. And even if it's like, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes before we jump live, and then after, in live, just allowing that flow to come through. And yeah, I feel really blessed, I would say, Samantha. So thank you for allowing this. I mean, I know we're creating this together. I know how much you appreciate, but we co-creating this, as we say that. So it
Thank
feels
you.
good.
Thank you, Gian. I feel exactly the same. I love it.
Yeah. And before we jumped in, we were like talking, and I was just sharing a little bit of what's happening, like after it's been day 11 today. I didn't even put the day there, but it's day 11 today, or episode 11. And I can feel, some shifts, and I felt something similar before, but now because we are like kind of more in touch with it every single morning as well, and kind of sharing with you guys what's triggering us or what's coming up, and then going into it as well. And I hope you guys can feel a little bit as well and start to kind of connect with it as well.
Yeah.
And this morning when Amanda asked like, how are you and everything, and I was like, I can feel you know like how much I can connect and be a little bit more conscious when I'm like consciously distracting myself now, I would say.
Yeah.
Whereas we heard this several times, and if you haven't heard, we know, scientifically proven 95% of the time we are acting from our subconscious mind. It's like things like your heart is beating. You don't need to count your heart and make sure that it's beeping and then beeping. So you don't need, like, my hands now are moving, not because it's like consciously, I would have to hold it maybe, to consciously make sure. It's like something that we learn from watching other people doing, or I don't know, from culture, from whichever it is. And we know that subconsciously we're doing that. And there are some distractions that we do on our daily basis that sometimes is already like on our programming. It's like on the subconscious mind. Like, for example, reaching to your phone in the morning, for example, going for a specific app, GC, going to your email and checking the emails, or going to the news, or going to I don't know, Facebook, or going to YouTube, or whichever app that you go into specifically. There is a routine even when you wake up and so on.
Yeah.
But sometimes we're kind of mindless, just doing the thing and distracting ourselves. And then when we wake up, it's like, oh my God, I spent an hour on Facebook or an hour on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the difference is that I start to feel like in the last few weeks, it's just like, even though like I have that pull because it's there from a while, like I'm giving you the example of the phone because it's very connected to all of us in this day and era as well. I go into the phone and it's like, oh, interesting. Why am I opening the phone now? Do you see? And then you feel a pull to go like, oh, do I want to go on Facebook? Or what am I seeking in there? What's the feeling usually that I get when I'm there?
Yeah.
And am I getting inspired? Or am I getting triggered? Am I comparing myself? Or
Yeah.
am I getting, connecting with people? Am I seeking connection? Am I seeking, do you see? And then when I'm looking into YouTube, am I trying to distract myself? I'm trying, do you see? What am I avoiding? And so on. And then even like the side effects of that as well. So let's say afterwards you go into Instagram and then you get, I don't know, triggered by something, and then you go like, you know what, I'm gonna go and open the fridge. Do you see what I mean? Subconsciously, you go there, open the fridge, I'm gonna eat this, or and you know what, now I'm gonna reach for a cup of coffee, and so on. All
Yeah.
those things that we do kind of almost subconsciously, they are kind of starting to come a little bit more conscious, like, oh, I'm interesting that I'm feeling like a cup of coffee now. Is this really, you know what I mean, what I want? Or is it just because I've been doing it all the time and it's, you know, subconsciously and everything else? So it's kind of, yeah, that's the idea that I shared early in this morning. And then we discussed it. I think it will be a good thing to share with you guys as well today.
Oh, I love that, and I love how the transparency as well. If you're, just wanting to share that, and I think it's amazing because it's such a huge shift to do that, and it really is to sort of the more time we spend just using our breath, going into our body awareness, going into that calm space, we acknowledge that presence, inner awareness, and that feeling of calm or happiness or liberation. And also, as you were saying as well, you're also aware that there's a part of you that it's a bit more observational of your of our patternings. So I think it's a brilliant thing to talk about as well, because by just doing something as simple as we've been sharing, of just being aware of myself, being aware of your body, why am I doing this? And it's not an exploration of blame, is it, or shame? It's none of that, but it's saying, is this behavior helpful to me? I wonder why I'm doing this. Do I really need that coffee? Do I really need to look at my screen? And also, there's a lot of research coming out now that the electromagnetic frequencies coming out of a screen or a phone, apparently they're addictive. There's evidence to show that without realizing it, we can become addicted, especially children addicted to the energy coming out of the screen. The brain gets used to it. So the distraction as well, it can be, just don't know I'm doing it. Maybe there's a part of me it's just a habit, so it's not that difficult to come out of. Or it could be, as I'm being aware of a certain distraction, oh, I wonder what comes up when I think about not fulfilling that distraction. So what can come up for me if I don't go on Facebook when I first wake up, or I go into Instagram and something triggers me in there, without knowing it, I'm having Nutella on toast. And I think it's beautiful because we're saying, as well as external distractions, it's that egoic mind, isn't it, constantly needing something, I think, outside of itself to reach that place of wholeness and safety and love and trust and value and fulfillment and joy, and that true connection within, that it's kind of forgotten a little bit. So it is going to be distracted because it's desperately trying to find things all the time. And when we talked about, we're also distracted by thoughts. The content, the mind, sort of that part needs content all the time as well. And just doing what you were saying is having that bit of awareness. You're not going to pressure yourself and say, right, that's it. I'm never going to do these things again, because there are real positives too. We need to eat. Eating's a beautiful thing. Love eating. And there are wonderful things about YouTube. I listen to certain spiritual teachers or get information, TED Talks, love it. It's great to connect with people. Junior and I are doing this through technology and the screen, but the more aware you become, the more you're aware of what maybe an abnormal, normal some things become. And I worked with somebody who was addicted to, I think it was like a WhatsApp. So she had lots of Twitter, that was it. And very constantly on the phone with Twitter. And for her to acknowledge that and come out at it, brought up lots of emotions for this particular woman. And there was anger in there, frustration. She was blaming herself. Like, I'm a really intelligent person. How have I got so my hours of my day are consumed with Twitter, and fear of missing out, all sorts of things. And what we showed her to do was, we didn't necessarily have to go into where that addiction came from, but we could just go into the layers that came up. So when she first put her phone away, and she, beep, 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 her phone was pinging. She was said, I'm feeling very anxious because I'm not responding. And it wasn't life or death. She knew it wasn't life or death. It was social groups. And it was okay, so there's anxiety there, and what's underneath that anxiety? And then she'd sort of go, I can't remember the exact pathway, but it was frustration, I think. And then, okay, just breathe into that frustration, hold that frustration, because we're doing it from a place of openness as well. She knew that these emotions weren't the whole of her. And as I think anger came up, blame came up, loss, there was some tears in there. There was a sense of loss of self. A part of her felt she'd abandoned herself. Patterns of codependency, being left out, being abandoned, all sorts of things came up, and we just kept beautifully. And it was quite quick. It was only about 15 minutes. And in the end, she said, wow, it's like breaking through the cloud. She got into a place of, I feel calm. My heart has opened up. There's a liberation here, there's a freedom here. And then she could just start to see quite clearly. And then there were some patterns we put in of why Twitter's good. And then the negatives it was having. She could see it had a huge sort of effect on her life. She wasn't being present with her children. She was very distracted. So they were having consequences of that. And it doesn't make her a bad mom, so she got very upset about that. And again, we just very gently worked through it. And distraction, it's what is that distraction wanting to keep us safe from having to look at? So there is a reason for distraction. There is a reason you want to do it. So there might be a part that, and it might think, well, there is nothing inside of me. I've had a quick look, there's nothing there. I've got to find everything I need outside. But we're reassuring you that if you're willing to change, you're willing to make that commitment to yourself, and we can only show the way to do that. We can only recommend that you do that, because we can only promise you that within you is that wholeness, that happiness, that calm, that peace, that value, that love, that whatever that thing is distracting you from, thinks it's going to find it out there. And even thoughts are really an external part of ourselves. It's different to our heart-centered self. So there's no blame or judgment or shame in a distraction, and how a distraction turns into an addiction. And addictions are very genetic based as well, and we can learn addictions. We learn coping mechanisms as well. I know in my family, food is a huge coping mechanism I learned from my family. So we can then give ourselves a break and say, oh my word, I did food mechanism brilliantly last night. We can we don't need to resist that part of ourselves by making it bad. We can love ourselves through it. And sometimes, we do need to be firm and say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do my breath. No, I'm not thinking, because there's nothing for me to think about in this moment. I am safe. And if a real emergency comes up, I will be there to deal with it. So sometimes there is a firmness there, but when we can lighten it, it's the resistance of something that really does keep it perpetuating as well.
I totally resonate, and I feel even the people that will be watching this, they can resonate, because we all have patterns that we learned from our parents. Like, it can be food, as we say.
Mm-hmm.
And food is highly attached to emotional connection, and it goes to connection as well. It's how we connect. And like, when you have like a meal, for example, and I say it several times, especially like when we went to Brazil a few weeks ago with Gabor, every single food, it came from a memory. Do you see what I mean? Oh, I'm having this because my grandmother used to cook, or this because my mom used to cook, or to this restaurant because, oh, this, it's where we had, I don't know, this moment of my life, or this cake is like the cake that we used to have for my birthday when I was a kid. Do you see? There's so much reconnecting with memories, reconnecting with people that are not here anymore, reconnecting with people that are here but maybe are distant. Do you see? And the same way, and then if we go to social media, there is that wanting to connect, wanting to, be together with people. But at the same time, it can disconnect us from, being with ourselves, being with the people that we have next to us, or being with, the things that we're doing right now, and so on.
Yeah.
And it's not about blaming or shaming ourselves and say, the shoulds there is like, I shouldn't be on Twitter, I shouldn't be on Facebook, and then comes guilt, and then, there's all the emotions that will come with it.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that they're bad as well. Like, it's like we said in previous episodes, it's just paying attention, it's just bringing awareness to it. Oh, it's interesting that I reach to the phone first thing in the morning, or, like, I do it mostly like afterwards today, but it's just like, oh, it's interesting that I'm opening this app specifically. And
Mhm.
it's interesting if I don't do that. Like, for example, you said about your client, like, oh, I feel anxious because, like, there's all these messages coming through.
Yeah.
There are a few things that we can do, practical things that can actually, wake us up, and, like, we can hide, some apps away from the normal screen, which makes you a little bit more, conscious of it. Like with YouTube is really interesting because I learned a lot with YouTube. So then there's that connection of, like, oh, it's a productive thing to do. It's an important thing to do. And almost like mindless, I have a shortcut on my computer. It was like going there, even just when you have like a minute or so, it goes straight away into YouTube. And
Right.
because we're doing this that we're doing now, it's like I put, rather than having the shortcut for YouTube itself, I'm going for the background of YouTube, which is like when we upload videos and everything. And I was like, and I find myself like sometimes like, wow, why am I, what I mean, on YouTube? Because it's not showing videos, it's just showing, our videos and the techie stuff. I was like, oh, I was reaching to YouTube subconsciously, to do stuff. Like what Amanda was saying, and I had a beautiful experience with like a client yesterday as well. And I resisted for a long time to do any sort of, therapy or work with clients, but occasionally I've done it. And like, especially after working with Amanda for years and knowing other people as well that do some tools that we can use to connect with our heart center or to ourselves and so on.
Yeah.
And there is a technique that I learned from a friend of mine, which is similar to what Amanda is sharing a lot. And we I mean, the only thing we do is just feel into it. Like yesterday I had a call with a ex-client, we're just catching up, and then she was saying how much she was feeling anxious with, money, with like not knowing what to do next and so on. And the only thing that we've done, like I invited her to close her eyes. I mean, we know with Amanda we can do the open eye meditation,
Yeah. Sometimes
but
you need
we,
to close
yeah,
your eyes.
we can
Like,
close your eyes, and sometimes you just need that guidance around it, and there's no fear or anything else. I mean, I'm not, a qualified therapist or anything. It's just like just being with the person there in that moment. And I was like, okay, so when you're thinking about, and for her, her case was like dance, for example, and it's really like something that she desires to do more and to help people with dance and so on. And she can feel that there's some resistance. There's like, oh, every time I think about it, there's some, feeling, there's some like contraction, what's going on? And I was like, okay, so just let's just close our eyes for a second, and then just, where is it that you feel? Ah, I feel it a little bit in my chest, a little bit in my throat. It's just connecting with your body again, like we mentioned before.
yeah.
And then with the, which one, that you feel that we can connect first. And then there was first with like the heart, and then we start kind of looking at that energy, and just without putting any names or anything to it, and just being with it, literally just being present with the energy itself. And then I was saying, look, if it reduces, just let me know. If it's, shows you something, you just, but be open and curious to what is going to happen there.
Yeah.
And then we went down, and then that beautiful kind of, and that energy, which, used to be kind of dense and contracting, then suddenly started turning to light, and it turned into, some a gift. And it felt good to kind of embrace it, and to, connect with her heart. And it's interesting, then she was ready to use even that energy to help with the other energy, to connect with the other one that was in the, in the neck, and in the throat. So, and then even like And I know that the mind goes into that place which we learn a lot about, self-development, and everything is like, it's in my throat, so I'm not expressing myself. The mind will go like all over. And I was like, look, don't worry, that's fine. And
Mhm.
let's just be with that energy, regardless if we learn that, it's you're not expressing yourself and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
bring up what's coming up, but let's just be with that energy. And then that energy, like that kind of feeling that was in the throat kind of gave another gift, you know what I mean? And then you can connect with it and so on. And then you can move on. And then at the end of, that period of that call, she was excited to actually go and do something and go for, oh, you know what, I'm going to invite someone to go to the beach with me to dance. Do you see? I'm going to buy a little Bluetooth speaker. Do you see? It could be
Yeah.
as
Oh,
little things as that.
yeah, that's
And
amazing.
we trying to run away, and distractions in here,
Yeah.
it can be anything. As Amanda was saying, it could be the thoughts. For her, for example, it could be the thoughts of, I'm not expressing myself. And then it goes into guilt, into anger, into frustration, because what am I not expressing? Why am I not expressing? Why am I holding back? And so on. And then we can go for those, feelings that are inside. And it can be a distraction of like, and I noticed this to myself as well, going to an audiobook, you know what I mean, which is a good thing, it's
Mm.
powerful, but we can use it as escape, as a distraction, or another course, another program, another whatever it is that we're putting in. And it
Yeah.
could be anything. We know when we are distracting ourselves
Hmm.
because we're kind of trying to push a feeling or contraction or something away.
Yeah.
And we know when we actually connected with that energy, we kind of, yeah, we were aligned to it, and we're doing the right thing as well. And yeah, and then what I'm just kind of bringing up as well, there is no blaming about being distracted by an audiobook, a thought, or anything else. Just
No.
bringing the awareness, just bringing that
Yeah.
place back of like, oh, it's interesting that I was distracted. It's interesting that I felt like, actually listening to something rather than just being with myself. And
Yeah.
and we're not saying that you have to just be with yourself like I don't know, a monastery, just 100% not doing anything, just on the top of the mountain. And yeah,
No.
it's just
No.
becoming a bit more, aware of what you're doing, and then learning with those blocks or with those contractions, because they're there as directions. Like I say this quote over and over again, the obstacle is the way, is directing us. Basically, if
Absolutely.
you have a flow of water that it's trying to flow through, if there are obstacles, the water will find, the direction, and will direct through the way. So those blocks are there literally to, direct us, to show us the way in that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Again, like you just listen to what you're saying and feeling everything you were saying, and yeah, I love it, isn't it? Because we're saying that when we connect with our heart center as well, we're not saying we just want to sit like a sort of clone. No, that wonderful girl you're talking about yesterday. We have personalities, and we have infinite gifts and values and things that we love doing, and we want to embrace those. We want to do those things, and the more you become that heart-centered self, that awareness that I am the space, there's so much more to me than thoughts in my head or emotions. And also we start to trust, don't we, that even if we can, and the mind's very clever, it can kind of kid us a little bit, like you were saying, I'm going to listen to a TED talk, I'm going to do another spiritual book, I'm going to go on another spiritual course. um, that can become almost a sort of spiritual ego, really, where I need this, I need another course. And eventually what you're saying, we're saying is, of course, listen to things, of course, watch inspiring programs, listen to somebody that you know helps you. But it's really important you will know when it's time to, right, let's put that into practice then, what that person said. Let me just spend some time integrating that. Are you saying about the crystal that your wonderful mentor gave you? You got to the point where you knew that I need to I need to bring it back to me. I need to bring it back to me. It's, I've listened to that YouTube. I'm going to now integrate. I'm going to embody this. And also it's coming back to that trust, isn't it? That we are enough, that we are our wisdom, we are valuable, and we don't have to keep going to other people to tell us the way or whatever it is. And of course we do. Of course we listen to, we're voracious readers, both Junior and I, but we also recognize there's times when it's time to go within and listen to my own wisdom. What's my inner voice saying? How do I feel about this? I can process this. I'm integrating this. I'm embodying this. And that's where the metamorphosis occurs, when we use that to make the decisions that we're saying. Even though something might feel like an external no, like we said yesterday, I'm saying no to Facebook, there's always a higher yes coming through, like your lovely ex-client yesterday. The yes that could eventually just beautifully stream out of her was, oh, the yes to the joy I get from dancing on the beach. Like, it just brings me joy. I love it. And some could go, well, that's an external thing. Well, yeah, we are meant to be here and enjoy being physical. Physicality is delicious. But it's remembering we are so much more within, and it's that within, that heart-centered consciousness that wants to enjoy those things, but it's when we get lost in them, and then it's keep bringing it back. And just as you were so wonderfully describing, just holding your friend's hand yesterday, where you're just holding her hand and just guiding her. Well, let's unpack that emotion then. Let's just go beneath that emotion then. Let's just go beneath that. And then mine was sort of going, I'm coming up with all sorts of reasons this is happening. We could say, it's okay, sweetheart. We're just going to go underneath that again. It's all right. We're going to get there. And then you got to that place of joy and liberation. And her mind could just relax and say, yeah, we're here. We've got beneath all that emotion. It's
Yeah, no,
wonderful.
awesome. And I feel, and to give some practical, I mean, I know our minds will go with, I mean, with this video, whoever is going to be watching is like, okay, so I'm aware that I'm distracting myself with several things that we mentioned here, social media, phone, books, or, training and everything else. What can I do? That's what the mind would go through, like, straight away. There are a few things, I mean, but again, don't attach that you have to do it all the time. You will know the moment. And again, even just going back to that idea, the obstacle is the way, the addiction that you have now, or the distraction that you go into, it's going to teach you. Just get that certainty that is kind of is directing you.
Yeah.
And it might be that you with just what you heard here, you're going to take some steps, and it's going to be easy for you to step out and, like, you know what, actually, I'm cutting all the notifications on my phone so I don't get triggered. That's some practical things that you can do.
Yeah.
But it might be like, you know what, I'm connected with Twitter at the moment. I know it's a distraction, but there is a reason behind. I can't explain and everything else. And then you're going to carry on with that, and that's fine. And there will be things that you will like, oh, it's interesting. I feel it's time for me to connect with it. If it's time for me to be curious about it, it's like, why do I reach to that cookie every afternoon? It's interesting. Where does it, can I connect with that emotion? What does it mean to me? Where do I feel that pull to go for that specifically thing? It's just being open. Like, I think the words that I heard from Amanda, and it's coming from me, is just, and yesterday on the conversation with my friend, it was literally the word openness. It was the main thing. It's just like, okay, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm paying attention, I'm feeling,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting, paying attention to that feeling in my chest, or I'm feeling my throat, or, it's interesting. And then just pay attention, and there will be some things that it will tell you, it will show you. And it's
Yeah.
like, and just, oh, and then say thank you. And then you don't need to attach too much, emotion to it as well. Because it might show, a specific image to you, and then your mind goes like, oh, but what does it mean and everything else. No, it's like, maybe you're just meant to be seeing that image, you know what I mean? As a practical thing that came up yesterday, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure she's going to be fine. I'm not sharing her name or anything. It was like the speaker, you know, the Bluetooth speaker, and you can feel how much that light up just by having, and it's just like, I don't know why I'm seeing this. I'm quite connected with the dance. Do you see what I mean? It's quite
Yeah.
clear. It's just like, yeah, okay, that brought a little bit of joy, you know, the lightness you could see in the,
Yeah.
and then it could be like, you know, there was another image of ego, for example, and then I felt like, okay, what's the an ego, you know, the meaning of it, and it's freedom, it's strength, and then, you know, like, does it mean to you, and like, and you can go really play with it rather than like, oh, I have to get rid of it, it shouldn't be there, I shouldn't be distracted, I shouldn't. Do you see that comes out with the mind again in that place?
And it's beautiful because we're saying that it's the resistance of something, isn't it? I shouldn't have this, I shouldn't be doing it. And we can say, well, it's okay for it to be there. I can say, you know, maybe I am going to sit with Twitter today and I'm just going to consciously be on Twitter and I'm going to see what am I thinking this has given me, and being with those feelings. And I think we live in a society as well where we perhaps haven't been taught that emotions are a good thing. We've been told that being emotional is negative and you shouldn't have negative emotions. So we're told we shouldn't show them, we shouldn't express them. Negative emotions are bad. And they're not. They're just there to be listened to and felt and heard. And also we can also say, well, actually, how do I want to feel? I want to feel connected. I want to feel part of something. I want to feel love. I want to feel friendship. I want to feel I matter. And we realize that we've sort of bypassed that part of ourselves and gone straight, and we realize we create the other way around. We always create from the inside out, but the ego forgets that and it tries to create from the outside in. So, well, if I go on Twitter, I'll feel friendship and I feel connected and I feel part of things, and that's why it gets addicted to it. But we can sort of say, well, if we just go the other way around, you said, actually, I'm just going to spend a minute. Why am I wanting to go on Twitter? What does it give me? And that's when all those things will come up that you can wonderfully look at and take care of yourself by being self-aware. It's very self-caring. There's a lot of self-nurturing that goes on there. And there's a lot of, and lightness and humor, like Julie and I both shared about, you know, some things that will come up. And in my friend with the Beyonce, and you know, I get things that come up sometimes. Had a wonderful frog energy that came up for me that hasn't gone away, and it's just, I'm loving it. It's funny, it's light, but there's a real depth and healing to it. So I think the main message we're saying as well, isn't it? The more aware you become, the more heart-centered. That space of, I do have moments in my life where I feel whole and loved and liberated and joyful and trusted. I have faith. I'm not on my own. I'm not scared. And we're not getting that from something outside of ourselves. And by just doing the breathing, being heart-centered, we realize it's all there within me. But of course, I came here to experience myself physically. So there's lots of joyful things to experience, to express ourselves through. But when we do it with a need, it's when we do something and and you'll know there's a need in something that you do, because there'll be a pull, there'll be a pressure, there'll be a fear of giving it up, there'll be a resistance. Even a part of you might be self-sabotaging, making excuses for not giving that thing up. And I worked with somebody that was making huge excuses about not doing her daily self brushing of her teeth. And basically, the things that she didn't want to look at were the things that she felt kept her safe. By being anxious and depressed, I get a lot of sympathy, I get a lot of care, I get lots of time off from work. No one hassles me because,
It's
and
it's interesting how it's connected. It's like a payoff for detrimenting yourself almost. You know, there's a payoff for being sick. There is a payoff for being the victim. There's a payoff for, you know, Oh, so because then I can feel looked after, do you see? Or it's almost like a kid as well goes to that place where they're crying and then the mom, hugs and, what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
So
get a
I'm
lot.
going to cry more so I can have more hugs. Do you see what I mean? And
Yeah,
then, yeah.
and there's a lot of resistance around it initially, but then when she knew it was actually that behavior wasn't bringing the results she wanted in her life, she very gently allowed herself to sort of lower the resistance to, well, who will I be without this label and pattern of behavior? And it was a very gentle process. But yeah, she was able to see who she really was underneath those patterns and behaviors. And there was no judgment or blame in that as well. Although she initially felt there was, there wasn't. And she was able to lovingly give herself, find the love, the nurturing, the self-care that maybe, so she wasn't making the depression, anxiety wrong. She could just see maybe there were other, it wasn't just, she wasn't just doing those things because of the secondary gains. There were very genuine reasons that those patterns were there as well, but her mind had started to notice, well, I get a lot of extra care. I get, like you said, like a child, when I'm poorly, I suddenly get a lot more care and attention than perhaps I do when I'm not poorly. And it was a very gentle self-care, self-nurturing process that allowed her to just unfold with that.
Awesome, awesome. I'm just aware of the time again, just to make sure that everyone, gets the most of it and doesn't feel heavy as well. It's just like, yeah, awesome. So I feel, just to wrap up, the whole conversation, I think distractions are present in our life all the time as well. There are, patterns and there's stuff that we've been doing it almost like mindless, or it's, it's our subconscious mind. It's like I said, like sometimes it's just like, oh, I'm opening, the phone, I'm going to YouTube straight away, I'm doing that and everything else. And this video is just to bring you awareness of like, oh, interesting, there are things that I do on a, automatic, mode, which is like, I wake up, I'm going to have a coffee, and then from the coffee I grab I don't know, that specific cookie or something, or a Nutella and toast, and I go. And it's just kind of about just being awareness. What does that, how do I feel with that? Is it distracting me, or what is it distracting for? Do you see? It's just, and I'm not saying for you to do for everything in your life. You're just gonna have, otherwise you're gonna be doing the whole day just kind of doing this, the whole thing. You're not gonna do your life in that sense. But it's just, yeah, there will be a couple of things, there will be one or two things that it feels like, you know what, actually it's time, it's like it feels good to pay attention to it, to bring it and to listen to, that contraction or that feeling or that, emotion that I'm getting there. And I promise you there will be some gifts in there. Do you see? There will be some, some knowledge that you kind of, you didn't see it for a while. There will be, a way of looking at life in a slightly different way. There will be gifts on those things. And as Amanda was saying, it's not about following into shame, guilt, or blaming yourself or anyone else in that sense. It's just like, oh, it's interesting that I've been doing this and I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
And now I'm ready to listen to this. I'm ready to embrace it. I'm ready to open or be curious about it as well.
We were saying as well, it will always, by just following that emotion down, it will always bring you back to this place of wholeness and joy. And by doing this, you realize you have a lot of joy in your life. And about you, Jean, the more I've done this, I have a lot of joy. Like I notice things now, very simple little things that were just like, oh, I love that. And little things that my mind wouldn't have seen. It was, oh, this is difficult, I don't know. But now there's loads of moments of sparkles of joy and laugh. There's a lot more laughter that comes through as well, because this emotion is being allowed to leave and the heart gets cracked open. And because it's, our human nature is to be joyful. That is our heart, that is in our inherent nature. So by doing this as well, we absolutely say there's a lot of natural joy that kind of just bubbles up a lot.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so yeah, if that feels good for you, just yeah, I would say just pay attention. Don't be freak out with everything. Don't take it the extreme of your mind. Just like if there is something that you feel that it's distracting you often, and then you feel it's kind of distracting from being here, present with people that are around you, with yourself, and being connected, maybe just yeah, just ask and just be curious. Do you see? And that might help you to dissolve. And there will be some ideas as well. There will be some practical ideas of like, you know what, actually, I'm going to delete that app, or I'm going to stop with the notifications, or I'm going to hide it somewhere. Do you see? I'm going to put that cookie away from, the cupboard, whichever it is. It's just like it will come to you, the ideas as well.
That's I'll just quickly say that, just adding on what you were saying, that as you become self-aware as well, solutions come up to help you with whatever the behavior that you were saying. I'm going to switch that app off, or solutions come up to help you because your heart wants you to be free of this. So it's all about self-care and um, taking care of ourselves and saying everything's all right. We're just going to work through this, and we're here as well. We're with you. You're not on your own doing this. We're here, and there's so many people here doing this with you as well. You're not on your own.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you again, guys, for everything. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions, of course, or any comments or any things that you don't agree, actually it's different and everything else, yeah, commenting below, and then we chat about that on the next episode, on one of the next episodes as well. So thank you so much. Have a lovely day wherever you are and whatever you're gonna do. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would say just yeah, subscribe. Maybe if you enjoy this type of chats that we're having here. I'll speak to you all soon.
Thank you. Lots of love. Bye bye
Bye
for
bye.
now.